On this episode of A Few Good Minutes, I sit down with Jimmy Norman, BUSU's Chief Returning Officer, the guy in charge of running all of BUSU's elections and referendum. I go back a few years with Jimmy. I had the opportunity to work with him when I was CRO. And one thing about Jimmy is he's always optimistic. He seems confident that voter turnout will continue to increase this year. In the meantime, here's my conversation with BUSU's top election official. So Jimmy, this isn't your first time as CRO, is it?
No, it's not. No, unfortunately.
So what keeps you coming back to elections? It's a pretty rough business.
Yeah, no, the job itself is something that I love. Of course, I was a part of the elections committee in first year, and then second and third year I was DRO and then CRO with you. And then I went to the events role. So coming back from the events role, it was sort of my goal in November and December is to look at the bylaw and see how we can make it more up to date and feasible for elections. So that's why I came back.
Yeah, before you were CRO, you actually served as a DRO under one of the greatest CROs of all time. What was it like to work with such a legend?
I'm assuming you're talking about yourself. Yeah, no, it was good, and you and I know that we work well together. So the CRO role is easily interpreted, right? So my rules are very different than necessarily what your rules were or what Mauricio's were last year. Always going back to the same bylaw, but there are rooms for interpretations, right? So,
yeah, talking about changes, you made some changes this year. You recently presented a BUSAC and informed them of your changes. What exactly did you change?
It wasn't necessarily changes that I've made. The main point of that was to make sure the BUSAC councillors understood their responsibilities pertaining to elections, so that was more polling. But the other thing I just mentioned in there, because it was asked, was campaign financing. In the bylaw it says that the campaign financing for BUSAC elections is $150. However, it says in there that the elections committee can minimize that. So what I found, and what our staff felt, and what the committee felt was that to run a BUSAC campaign, you didn't need $150. So that's the change we made. We just said $50 for BUSAC and $100 for Senate. It was just one more extra step to make sure that our student money is being spent, because obviously elections are funded through the Division I budget at BUSU. So that all comes back to spending students' money as best we can. So I haven't heard any complaints, and then we'll look again after the election and see if that was a good thing or bad thing, right? So.
Voter turnout is obviously an issue every year. Are you doing anything different this year to combat voter turnout?
For this election, we have stuck with the ways in which we've done it in the past. However, we are going to be using the new BUSU kiosks, which students might see around, those big red tower kiosks. We are going to be using those. We've targeted residences, so one of our BUSAC councillors, Michael Dubé, has reached out, and we will be having polling stations at each of the cafeterias on different days, so that we can address those first years. Because I'm a firm believer that if you get those first years involved, it should, and it only will, domino effect throughout their 4 years here.
And so you're in charge of all that kind of stuff, and one of those things is the debates. You've been CRO before, and in your experience, is there any kind of parts of the debate that you want to change this year?
Nothing off the top of my head about debates. I am looking to do more of a town hall. That's been an idea that has floated around the election sphere at BUSU for a while, and so it'd be a good pilot year to see how that would work. Sort of a more unfiltered debate where students can come and ask questions to campaigns, right? So that's one thing we are thinking. As much as students, we always hear on overheard at Brock groups and the Brock memes that it's election period and how they're going to get hassled in the hallways. It's an important part of your Brock experience, and I don't think a lot of students understand the role that the student union plays and how important we are.
For more episodes of A Few Good Minutes, stay tuned to BrockTV.